Joining me right now is the former Secretary of State and Fox News contributor, Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Welcome back.
Good to be with you again, Maria. Good morning.
So what can you tell us about this spy setup in Cuba surveilling American citizens that the White House first lied about, said they had no idea about it, but then quietly admitted that, yes, it has been set up since 2019, apparently?
Boy, that story from the White House reminds me of the same storyline from the balloon. You remember first there was no balloon, then it was a weather balloon, and then there was a balloon during the Trump administration. So the narrative continues to be the same. That's unfortunate. They should be more candid and, frankly, more assertive with respect to the Chinese Communist Party. But, Maria, to your larger point, which is this, I've seen the reporting on the spy base in Cuba. We know what happened with the spy balloon. We know that they're operating police stations inside of our country. We're aware they're trying to lay telecommunications cables across the ocean floors. The evidence of what I said in early 20, which is the Chinese Communist Party has an objective of global domination and to take down the United States, to make us a nation in decline. This is just further evidence of their efforts and the required focus of the United States to make sure we protect the things that are most vital to our country. And a spy base in Cuba is another arrow in the quiver for the Chinese Communist Party to collect intelligence on America and one day to confront us in a way that we may not be prepared for if we don't get it right today.
Well, I mean, you were incredibly effective on the Chinese Communist Party. You had a string of indictments. You closed down the Houston embassy because of all of this surveillance. You made sure American citizens understood that Communist China was now, as you put it, inside the gates of America, having infiltrated so many areas of our economy, Hollywood, business, academia, etc. What do you propose we do now? Because we see the aggressiveness from the Communist Party, and we see that their goals is to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. How should we be responding?
So there's two pieces that I think President Biden's not getting right. First is you have to tell the American people, and we did. Wasn't just me. It was Attorney General Barr. It was National Security Advisor O'Brien. You had Director Radcliffe on. We're all very candid about here's the threat, here's the risk, and then lay down a strategy to respond to it. And that has as its center reciprocity. The Chinese Communist Party is buying land inside the United States. Okay, can we buy land there? No? Fine, you can't buy any of ours. If we can't invest on your stock exchange and in your companies, you can't invest here in ours either. We have to demand that the Chinese Communist Party behave like every other nation is expected to behave, and President Biden has refused to do that. He has given them a free pass. He's made excuses. He refuses to talk about the actual risk that's associated with to the American economy and workers and jobs all across the United States of America. When you are clear and articulate about the things that really matter to America and then lay out for the American people the strategy to respond, I'm convinced that businesses, schools, academia, that they will all see this and they'll begin to understand this risk and behave in a way that's consistent with the American objective.
Well, I mean, look, you studied this so much, not just when you were Secretary of State, but you were the director of the CIA, congressman from Kansas. Tell me, you started an incredible studying and investigation into Communist China back during your Congress days. I want to get your take on what they want to do with all of this information. If they're spying on us, obviously they sent military secrets back to Beijing in real time. I understand why they would want our military secrets, but why spy on American citizens through all of these ways, from TikTok to the spy balloon to the police stations? What are they doing with the info?
Maria, a couple things, I think. One is you captured the physical, the military, the security component to this. More data, more information. First rule that I learned at West Point is know your enemy, right? That goes back to Sun Tzu, long ways back. And so they want to make sure that they understand what it is we're doing, how our missile programs are designed, how our air defense systems are designed, all of the things that permit them to have leverage in a negotiation, a diplomatic negotiation, and real military power. But second, and this harkens back to your previous segment where you were talking with a guest about AI, data collection matters. You know that every one of these AI platforms, every one of these applications depends on massive databases. health databases, personal databases on individuals, behavioral databases like the Chinese Communist Party is collecting with its digital currency. That data, that capacity to understand how things are moving, who's doing what, when, and to whom, that's important data for the Chinese Communist Party, and goodness knows the evil intentions that they may have with that information and that data, Maria.
Unbelievable. I want to get your take, Secretary, on this story as well. Michigan Congressman Jack Bergman is calling on the Justice Department to investigate an anti-American website called The Mapping Project. The site, allegedly from Iran, is said to incite assassination attempts against U.S. law enforcement and Jewish people, Secretary. You've been targeted by Iran in an assassination plot yourself. Your reaction?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I have not read the legislation, but we should be clear. The Iranian effort to come kill Americans here on our own soil is very real. They are determined. They're pretty capable. We're doing a good job at protecting American citizens. But remember, they've attacked in Washington, D.C. They attacked the Saudi ambassador in Washington, D.C. a decade and change ago. They came after American in New York just a few months ago. We saw the indictment where the Iranians were pursuing both myself and Ambassador Bolton. An effort to understand the Iranian efforts, to understand what it is they're actually trying to do, and to make sure we're devoting adequate resources to protecting not just former government officials, but every American is absolutely an imperative. And I hope the Biden administration will get their arms around this in a way that is meaningful for every American.
Well, it doesn't look like it. John Ratcliffe just told us the administration's about to send $17 billion to Iran so that Iran can buy weapons from North Korea to sell them to Russia. So here we are saying that we're trying to support Ukraine, and yet we're enabling $17 billion to a terrorist nation, Iran. And what are they going to do? Sell weapons to Russia like they've been doing.
Maria, it's both illogical and dangerous. Look, the administration's policy in the Middle East has just been backwards since the beginning. They went back to Barack Obama's time period, right? Make friends with the Iranians and confront the Gulf Arab states. Not in America's best interest to do that. We've got it completely backwards, and our friend, our partner, our ally in Israel can see that as well. It puts every American, and certainly Israel and the Gulf states, at an awful lot more risk, too.
How disturbing. Real quick, Secretary, outgoing CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is going to testify in front of the House Select Coronavirus Subcommittee tomorrow on the agency's policies and decisions during the pandemic, including school reopening guidance, Secretary. We just heard that Mark Zuckerberg is now complaining about the fact that he was pressured to censor information about COVID vaccines and about the COVID treatments from the administration and the medical community. And he said much of it now we know is true. And they censored it on Facebook.
Tragic, cost American lives, didn't give the American people what they deserve. Information that they can evaluate, they can measure, they can make good decisions for their own families. I am sure you will hear from Director Walensky today storylines, excuses, a narrative that says, no, we got it all right. They got it fundamentally wrong. They were in cahoots with the teachers' unions and Randy Weingarten to prohibit people from understanding the basic thing that we knew early on, that kids in schools presented almost no risk to each other, certainly almost de minimis risk with respect to loss of lives, and yet we kept kids out of schools for almost 2 years because the teachers' unions demanded it. It's abhorrent, and we cost a lot of kids at real risk a good piece of their education.
Secretary, real quick before you go, do you have anything to say about your former boss, President Trump, being indicted 37 counts against him? He will be in Miami tomorrow to face a federal judge.
Oh, goodness, a lot. 3 thoughts. First of all, if you have classified information where you shouldn't have it, turn it in, give it back. That's pretty straightforward, Maria. You know that. You've been living in the national security space for a long time. Second, it does look like this prosecution is totally inconsistent with how Hillary Clinton was treated. I was in the middle of that on the Benghazi committee. We didn't raid Hillary's home. The Justice Department didn't indict her. It handled it in a way that is fundamentally different from this, not as political as this particular indictment. So you got to get it right. Every senior leader has to handle classified information correctly. If the allegations in the indictment are true, President Trump didn't do that, and that's too bad. It's also too bad this is now going to be chaotic in the presidential election, and that's forget politics for a second. That's just bad for the American people.
Yeah. Great point. Secretary, it's good to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.